With Justin Turner, he's not in the lineup today. Is it just a routine off day for him?
No. Yesterday during batting practice, he had a stinger, the right side of his neck. And we tried to treat it. We did treat it. And he felt that he wanted to give it a go and try to play through it. Couldn't turn his head to the right. And got through the game. Woke up feeling very similar. So I think that, obviously Justin will do anything we ask, but I just don't think it's right to put him in that spot and for us as a club. And I think we have other options also. So I think today it's more of save him for a big spot to pinch hit, and we'll have an off day tomorrow. And my expectation is he'll be back in lineup for Game 3.
Thank you.
Next question. In the back there, Dave.
Hey, Dave. I asked Will this earlier about opposing teams stealing bases off you guys. 2 of those last night, set up 2 runs. What's been what you've settled on as far as your relievers and just their time to the plate and how to mitigate all that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, there's ideally every reliever, every pitcher would be 1-3 to the plate or less, and not compromise stuff or execution. With Blake in particular, some other guys, we just feel that executing a pitch is more important. And when our guys have tried to quicken up, execution and stuff has been compromised. So we've got to make a decision, and I think so. That's kind of the tough part as far as Will. He's as good of a thrower as there is in the game, and so he can only do what he can do. So it's a conversation we have, but I think that at the end of the day, we have to make a decision on what's most important. Yeah.
In the middle, JP.
Yeah, Dave, had Justin had any neck problems prior to this coming up yesterday?
No. It was yesterday. His pregame work was good. It happened in the middle of batting practice, and he just couldn't look to his right. And even on one of those plays last night defensively on a pop-up, you could tell he couldn't move his head. And so, yeah, that's where we're at.
Staying on the neck, I assume CT3 is okay after the little collision?
The collisions, he's fine, yes.
Mark?
Dave, with Charlie Morton starting tomorrow or Tuesday night, what do you remember about Game 7, those final 4 innings that he threw, how good he was?
Well, I try to forget it, but I remember I don't think we put up a base runner or let alone put up any runs. Charlie's a great competitor. I've admired him for a long time from afar. He's he's that old school ball player, competitor, would take the ball anytime, and it's fun to compete against a guy like that. And I see Kershaw's a guy like that, Wainwright's a guy like that, Charlie's in that bucket, with the Max Scherzer type too.
Okay, in the middle, Bill.
Dave, when you mentioned that you saw during the game that JT had trouble adjusting or turning his neck on the pop-up, what was the thought in terms of you?
I didn't see it personally at the game. This was after, on the highlights, kind of looking at the thing. So I didn't see it.
Okay, so there wasn't any discussion during the game
to take him out? No. It's like once he was in there, he was going to try to fight and gut it out and get through the game.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
You down here, Jorge?
Dave, I think I saw Chris Taylor taking ground balls yesterday at third base. Was that just sort of routine? Or
no, that was more of trying to be a little bit preemptive, and if Justin decided at the 11th hour he couldn't post, then we were going to have CT play third.
And obviously this is not related to the injury, but Justin has been struggling a little bit in the postseason. What have you seen in his at-bats?
Certainly, when guys are struggling, it's a combo. It's the chase, and when you do get pitches to handle, you're not finishing the at-bat. So I think that's what's happening to Justin. I think a lot of our guys are a little bit caught in between on velocity versus spin. So it's more about just the mindset of being aggressive in your zone and what you're good at. And everything outside of that, try not to offer at it. And again, it's a lot easier said than done. And then if you get 2 strikes, you got to just fight and compete. But he'll get out of it.
Down in front, AJ.
Dave, how do you quantify the value Will Smith brings when you can pencil a guy like that into the lineup at catcher, given what he does offensively?
There's just very few guys that you can hit in the middle, top part of an order of a championship caliber team, who's a receiver as well and who's very good back there. For me, he's a top 3 catcher in baseball, hands down, and that's an easy conversation for me. And then you layer in on the heartbeat, the pulse. He's a heck of a player, very intelligent guy. So we don't take it for granted, and his growth with the pitching staff, the trust that he has. You know, when you're talking about Kershaw, Scherzer, you know, Bueller and Jansen, some guys that have, you know, really admirable track records and kind of managing those guys and be the leader on the field. It's not easy, but this year he's really come a long way and continue to get better.
Anything else for Doc? Down here, Jorge?
And then with Justin not playing, was there any other options besides Chris Taylor for third base? I know Gavin's played there maybe once, and then you have Matt Beatty as well, left-handed bat.
Certainly we have good options. You know, I still like Beatty on the bench in a spot. Anderson's sort of a neutral guy, has been his entire career. I think the ability for Gavin to play center field and get comfortable out there, as he said and as he's shown, and have Chris play third base and catching the ball, throwing it accurately, I felt good about that.
JP?
The big stolen base in the 9th inning last night prompted some questions more about just what you guys can do to hold runners on, and it's been a question all year. Is this, though, that time of year where little things like that just tend to get magnified and teams are just so much better at exploiting little advantages like that?
Yeah, it was clear once Albies got on base, he had intent to steal second base. It was clear. We got a strike with the slider, first pitch strike, and I think the bottom line is that we just didn't execute a pitch. I mean, I think that, yeah, the stolen base is one part of it, but I think that we just didn't execute an 0-1 pitch. And so, you know, if we execute that 0-1 pitch, I think that it would be a different conversation today. But certainly, JP, all the little things get magnified in the postseason, as well they should. And so we got to continue to work on it and get better so things like that don't cost us.
Straight back, Tyler?
Dave, you guys had a couple of steals too yesterday, and obviously you have a big postseason stolen base. How does that calculation, that risk-reward calculation on the stolen base change in the postseason when runs theoretically are at a premium?
It's changed over the years, and I think in the right way, in the sense that some of these arms that you're seeing, and you can see from our guys, it's hard to build an inning. And I say build an inning by getting consecutive hits to score a run. So if you can take a calculated risk like Albies did last night, you know, guys do, it just increases your chances. I can't recall many innings that Blake's given up 3 hits in an inning to give up a run. So he gave up 2 hits, you know, and I think that that's just a smart baseball play. Yeah.
Have you ever thought about, you know, your famous stolen base, about the risk reward there? Like if you were out, that, you know, that series is probably over. How much did that go into your mind when they asked you to do what you did? Or subsequently since then, I mean, like if you had been out, like.
Oh, I think about it. Joe West reminds me every time I see him that he made me famous for making the right call, by the way. You know what? I think about it, but I think that it's one of those things. I think that in the postseason, where, as JP mentioned, things are more magnified, you just can't be afraid to fail. I just think that careful in the postseason doesn't play. And so that's kind of in the batter's box, defensively, on the bases, and, you know, understanding the game score and how the game needs to be played. But if you feel good, you got to be all in.
Bill, in the middle.
We'll always hear from fans who start watching in October, like, "Hey, where's the bunts?" And you got to, say, "Well, these guys don't
love
bunt
those fans
anymore."
Bill.
Yeah,
great.
As long as they're buying tickets, Dave. But in terms of a stolen base, can you ask guys to steal that don't normally do it? Is that a little less risky than asking them to bunt when they don't do it, or is that like either you can or you can't?
I can. I can, but it's one of those things that it's the right play unless he's thrown out. So it's kind of, I know these players better than anyone does, and I know our team better than anyone does. And so if I don't feel the risk is worth it, then I'm not going to make that decision. So, so I understand both sides, but I can't live in a world of if it works, it's a great decision. So I make decisions based on, what I know of my players.
There are guys you would ask to steal tonight that you wouldn't have asked to do that June 15th?
Yes, absolutely. If the situation calls for it, it wouldn't be crazy to see Corey Seager steal a base. Absolutely.